Folks, we are in deep trouble as a state of Connecticut, and it requires immediate action, as John indicated. Yes, it's been 2 months since we passed the budget. It's been just a month since we put the finishing touches or implementing language on that budget. And I think I have to remind everybody what has happened since that event. The event took place on October 2nd when we passed the last implementer for the budget, the Democratic budget. And since that time, this is what we have learned, and we've learned this from independent sources. First and foremost, we learned from the Democratic Secretary of the State that Connecticut in the month of September lost 6,600 jobs, adding to the total, which now is approaching 90,000 jobs that have been lost in the state of Connecticut. We also learned from our Democratic Secretary of the State that the state of Connecticut has realized over 9,200 business closures since January. 9,200 businesses have closed since January of '09. We also learned from our Office of Fiscal Analysis, our nonpartisan budget office, in conjunction with the Office of Policy and Management, that our revenues are plummeting. Every single revenue source is down, and as a result thereof, they predicted that we would be facing a budget deficit for this fiscal year, not the biennium, this fiscal year, of an amount in excess of $388 million. Also, we found out that on October 13th, and keep your eye on this one, folks, on October 13th, our unemployment fund went insolvent, bankrupt, done, empty. And therefore, in order to pay the unemployment benefits, we are borrowing at a rate of $60 million every 3 months from the federal government. And whether the federal government chooses to waive interest or not, that money needs to be paid back. It needs to be paid back somehow. Will it be paid back on the backs of the taxpayers, on small businesses, or will we be able to get our fiscal house in order to manage that debt? That is a huge question that's lurking out there, because that debt figure is not included in the other estimates. We then learned that Moody's, as John indicated, Moody's Investment Services took a look at the state of Connecticut and what the Democratic budget did therefore, and said, bad news, you went from stable to negative. You're on the wrong path. You borrowed too much, you relied too much on one-shots, and your tax scheme is based on a volatile revenue stream, that being the wealthiest citizens. And they pointed to what happened in September of '08, saying that you are on shaky ground. They downgraded us from stable to negative. And finally, the Democratic Comptroller of the state of Connecticut once again warned that our deficit is growing, that she predicts we're over $620 million in deficit for this fiscal year. And again, as John indicated, that does not include the supposed savings we are going to realize from unnamed revenue sources, from sale of unnamed assets, etc. All of that points to a fiscal crisis that is still happening. It is our job as a legislature to deal with it, and deal with it immediately. It is time to get serious. It is time to cut. We need to do that now. The governor, yes, has indicated that she might call us into special session, but that means nothing unless there's a will by the Democratic majority to actually accomplish something. As you all know, we could be called into session, gavel in and gavel out, and have fulfilled our constitutional duty. We need a commitment on the part of those who lead this legislature in the Democratic Party to take corrective action immediately with regard to this budget.